From E.P.N, my name is David Ewen, and this is Your World Discovered, I should say. But anyways, my guest today is John Stevens Alon. He's the founder and CEO of TSO Global Multimedia Content Provider. Again, my name is David Ewen from E.P.N, and this is Your World Discovered. Welcome to the program, John.
Thank you, sir.
It's nice to see you. Tell us a little bit about your background. We talked a little bit about it before going on air.
Well, I came to the United States, to Brooklyn, New York, at the age of 13. Didn't speak any English. My roots are originally in Toledo, Spain, Arriba, España, and in Algeria, once the Jews and the Muslims were kicked out. In Jerusalem, my father brought me to Brooklyn, New York. As you could see, I just didn't fit in with the Eastern European, American, very ultra-religious Jewish people, or Sicilians. Frankie the Italian, hey, how you doing?
That's where you get it. That's where you get it. And I tried to do it before we went on air, and that I could not do it.
Yeah, well, it was very easy for me to pass as an Italian. Sicilian friends, I was afraid to tell them I was from Israel because they were very Catholic, very, you know. So I was afraid if I told them I was Israeli, they said, well, he crucified Jesus. So it's better if I just say I'm Italian. I say I'm from Napoli. And then they would talk to me in Italian. I say, hey, please, don't talk to me in Italian, all right? When I came to America, I went to church. In America, I don't speak Italian. So if you speak to me in Italian, I make believe I don't understand what you're saying. But Naples, I would say, forget about it, don't talk, don't even bring that.
Very
so
good.
Anyway, I ran away from home at 16. But I remember an old mobster, he said to me, he liked me very much, and he said, Frankie, what you need to do, your vocabulary. That way, if you're not formally educated, at least you sound like you are. At 16, I got a job, and they were all from Yemen originally, Jewish people from Yemen. Read books, highlight the words I didn't understand. What does it mean? Look it up in the dictionary. How do you pronounce it, and how do I use it? To sit on these people at work who barely spoke English. Like I would say, last night I didn't feel good. I felt like regurgitating, and they would go crazy with their Arabic. But it didn't matter. They hated me and all that. I wanted to improve myself, increase my vocabulary by 500 words. American Academy of Dramatic Arts, where I took some speech lessons I told you about. My Brooklynese accent. And then I used to dance salsa on weekends and everything. Went to Israel, for a couple of years to serve in the army, 3 years, came back. I wanted to get into the film industry as an actor. My first interview, after I had my photographs done, and I was a pretty handsome guy, I thought, and I had a great tan. I go into the casting director's office. She looked at me and she goes, too dark, too short. He felt bummed out. I said, I better get my butt into production real quick. This is going to work. Had I been patient, it could have worked because, today with the Sopranos and things they're doing, I could have had a lot of jobs, playing a mobster, Being that I love salsa, I was a salsa dancer, and that led me to produce a Latin show for Fabergé and Canal 47. That led to ABC, Fox Television out here. But I left to do feature films, did Demi Moore's first movie. But as I've been in the film industry, basically in the feature film area for a long time as a producer, writer, and directed a couple of things. But I discovered that television is where it's at. You know, either you make these big feature films, or you make an independent film, which I have. I've done a couple of, and I suffered a great deal with the distribution and everything. And I saw the more and more was being done on television. And that gave birth to the idea of taking some of my feature film scripts, converting them into television pilots and second episodes, creating a multimedia. Today, everything obviously is multimedia. So I want to do multimedia, multicultural stuff, because I'm very much into the Latin culture. I spent all my early younger years before I got married in the Latin dance halls in uptown Spanish Harlem, up on 145th and Broadway. That was my milieu. I married, my first wife was Puerto Rican. She was a New Yorican, rather, you know, like J-Lo. And now I'm married to a Brazilian for the past 10 years. So I got telenovelas, and I'm into that whole Latin culture. Also, my Irish movie was really a diversity movie. I was ahead of time with diversity. A guy who's like an Archie Bunker. He's the head of this big Irish family, and hates everybody. And his brother up in the house with this black woman he's going to marry. So obviously there's some fireworks in the family. Forget about it, all right? So I'm into time. I was a member of the Agape Church, which is, when first day I went there, I thought it was going to be all black, but it was maybe 65, 70% black, and a whole bunch of white people as well, you know. So I'm very much into the African American culture as well, and is for targeting Asians, and it has John Milius attached. Wrote Apocalypse Now and many co-creator of Rome. 72 projects in development, and one of the things that I have had to do is raise money for it, to, you know, move from being an artist to become an entrepreneur. And doing a lot of pain, but fortunately, lucky enough, into that, by the way, toughest part of being an independent filmmaker. It's like an uncle of mine told me that, said to me, you know, this is a business for children, but I didn't listen, because I was passionate about filmmaking. For a family with a lot of money, it's very easy to make films and maybe even do your own distribution. But other than that, filmmaker, you really need to know how to raise money. And for a long time, I walked around like this, like with horse blinders. I didn't want to know anything about the money and financing and all this, even though I worked as a production accountant. I worked as a, have to deal with the budgets and everything. But as a filmmaker, I wanted to be, but then I learned the hard way that I have to learn how to reinvent myself and learn about finance.
Tell us a little bit about some of the books that you have put together. And this covers also a lot of the work that you've done. You've talked a little bit about film, television, and also doing more of the entrepreneurial type of work, so that you can help with the fundraising and run a business. But also tell us some of the things that you provide the general public with some of the books that you've published.
Well, I tried to write a book a long time ago, when you had to go and get an agent, with the whole rigmarole of, you know, this publishing mafiosi world, you know. It was very disheartening to get rejected and all this and all that. And I sort of gave up on it. So I said, let me just focus on being a screenwriter. And one day I wrote the script about the Irish people, because I saw the young Dubliners performing their great Celtic rock. I wrote the script about the Irish family, and at the time, member of the Directors Guild of America Publication Committee for the magazine, which is a prestigious industry magazine. I'd graduated the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I loved 2 years I was there. It was fantastic. And worked with actors, you know. I felt insecure about communicating with actors. So, yeah, what to do? What to do? I'm going to direct this movie. How am I going to deal with the actors? I had this insecurity. The editor of the magazine, his name was Tom Carroll at the time, no longer there, but he was a great guy. He was very creative. And I went to him, I said, Tom, how about I do a series of articles in a magazine called Actors Turn Directors on eliciting the best performance from an actor. And he loved the idea. So they gave me their backing. They sponsored me. And I was able to go to the agents who turned me on to the publicists. And, you know, working technically for the Directors Guild of America, I was able to access, the first one was Richard Benjamin, who at the time was pretty a lot. My first interview, I failed terribly. It was a pretty good interview, but I learned a lot. The second one, I was better. Sidney Pollack, I had to be better because he was really, really tough. That was my first book. I have to mention Mel Gibson here. A lot of people have put him down, but he was very good to me. He knew I was Israeli. People say he's anti-Semitic and all that. Forget about it. I don't know. He was good to me. He'll give me 1 hour interview. He gave me 3 hours. Great, great things. And then he introduced me to Jodie Foster. So God bless him. He's made a big comeback now with a big movie. Win Oscars, you know, hopefully. So that was my first book. I got it published. I wrote the thing as articles for the magazine. I met a publisher, Silman James Press. He published my book. I wasn't happy about the cover, but I didn't realize once you make a deal with a publisher, and you get 10% royalty. I put in 2 years of work, you know. So it was kind of disheartening. I tried to get the rights back. It wasn't happening. So I kind of gave up on the books and continued with screenwriting. And then to turn the scripts into television, you know, the movie scripts I have into television scripts. Who is, by the way, he just became the chairman of the Latino Directors Guild of America. He said to me, Dad, why don't you books again? You can self-publish. So I've been doing some due diligence on it, and we can publish Kindle. And I didn't know anything about it, but so I took my scripts, and this is a great thing for writers. What happened to me, the process I went through, and by transforming them into books, the story, I expanded the characters, limited in terms of writing dialogue anymore. Whereas in movies, you know, you try to show more. Here, I could talk all I want, you know. I give my characters freedom to be themselves. Also, a lot of novellas talk a lot. And I said, wow, that's great, because we are able, novella, doing a limited series on Netflix. Instead of doing a story in 90 minutes, now you have 10 hours or 50 hours, like Del Sur, which is a great telenovela that beat all the American networks in the rating episodes. And I watched, wow, it's incredible. So anyway, I wrote the books, a lot of trials and tribulations in terms of formatting and getting them published and getting the covers made. And then I said to myself, wait a minute, now I should go and update my scripts because I discovered all these nuances about my characters and new dialogue and even in feelings and describing things. It's been a blessing. I cannot tell you what a great blessing it is. We gotta be careful because, like, for example, when I did my pilot versions and second episodes of the feature film scripts, pilot, second episode. Now I have pilot and I have 2 additional episodes. I have 3 of them because it got longer, you know? Anyway, because I've done so many drafts, I'm a horrible proofreader, and I keep republishing them and then finding errors and republishing, and I have so many different coded files that yesterday, for some reason, I've never done it before because I have it on a big drive. I said, let me get rid of all these versions, earlier versions I have. Deleted all these earlier versions. This morning, because yesterday I republished, lo and behold, what the hell happened? Instead of, like 50 pages in the end disappeared. Frantically, I'm trying to find the files I had deleted. I had deleted it. So, but I was lucky I found one PDF with 2 books. I mean, PDF from both of them. I had the PDF, but not the original. So I found a way, a lot of work, and I'm crying every minute doing it, to the whole, the whole book. In other words, when you converted it from the PDF to back to your normal, file, the Word file, everything, all the spaces, everything, the whole format changed. Reading now, I'm almost done with one of them, and I'm going to bleed through the second one. And the other thing for writers, which is very important, work with 2 screens. I don't know if you do. Do you work with 2 screens when you write?
No, but I was going to mention the tool that I use to actually publish on Amazon is called CreateSpace, so that the book is published both in paperback and ebook. And a simpler version of ACX, I also use authorsrepublic.com to put it in audiobook. So my next question to you is, have you considered, as part of your multimedia effort, to put your work, now that you've done sort of the video with the television and the film, and you're working with the published works, have you delved into sort of in between the book publishing and the television production? Have you gone into audiobook production?
I not yet, because first of all, I was exceedingly intimidated going into Amazon. And when I realized in the beginning I had to pay people to do the reformatting, and every time I would find an error, I had to send them the files back and again and again until I learned how to do it. Actually very simple to do it yourself. And the way I approach it, I do go to Creative Space. I publish the book there, and then they ask you at the end, do you want this to be a Kindle book? To Kindle, but because the formats are a little different, Kindle, I learned how to reformat it. And then if I have to redo, if I have to make changes, I have to go to both. So I've kind of been a little bit intimidated by the idea of books, but I guess I will have to get into it sooner or later because I have a bunch of books now, and another one is going to come out in about 2 weeks. So I have books. Now I have to say something about the books. I learned when I did the film Irish Whiskey. After I did one film and I had Demi Moore in it, was her first movie, and then I they took the movie away from me, the people who funded it. And I did another film, the distributor, I never saw any money. And the Irish Whiskey, when I finished the film, I won some of the awards and festivals, Houston, and I had distributors making me offers, which I found were prescriptions for ripoff. They would say to me, like, give us the film and kiss our butt out the door because you ain't never going to see kind of prescriptions they were handing me, the offers they were giving me. So I was unhappy. I said, you know what? You can kiss my butt because I'll go door to door and I'll sell the movie. I called my friend Vinny in New York. I said, hey, yo, Vinny, I'm going to go door to door, sell my movie. And he said, crazy, you don't look like no Brad Pitt. Who's going to open the door? Forget about it. It's a bad idea. If they open the door, the dogs are going to kill you. I went door to door and knocked on 30,000 doors selling my movie. And the people went home. But out of the 40% that were home, 60% of those bought. So I sold over 7,200 copies. Discovered is they're different. When you're dealing directly with the consumer, so when I would knock on the door, it depends on who opened the door. I sold the female elements of the movie. This is a movie for if it's an Irish people. Oh, I have the Young Dubliners. It's about an Irish American family. If they're black people, I tell them I have a black character and she's a terrific role model, very positive. The same applies to the book because some of my books have overlapping, like I say, they diversity. Sometime with a couple of my books, I felt I could pitch it to a mainstream American and I could do a version for Latinos. So that's what I've done. You know, so it just interesting things. So in terms of multimedia, yes, I do want to get into audio, but I'm beating my time. First, I have to be in total control of, and then I'll be able to, maybe get into the on it when I do.
I like the work that you're doing, and you've got the multicultural aspect of it. You've done a lot with television and also some film production, and certainly worked with some notable people. And so that's quite an impressive resume, and also working with some published books that people can find on Amazon. Where do you see your work? We've got a few minutes left in the broadcast. Where do you see yourself in the next few years?
Well, God willing, like I said, I had to learn how to become an entrepreneur. Part of it is how to get yourself funded. And I was fortunate enough to discover that some help out there available for entrepreneurs. Very, very careful because there's a lot of scammers out there. So we'll take advantage of the entrepreneurs. And eventually I'm going to, because it's infuriating at times. But anyway, I see myself, the plan is to get funded. I started out to raise $3 million, where we would just do packaging. But that developed and got bigger and bigger. And now we're working on a $23 million raise, a Regulation B 506 placement offering. That took months and months and months of due diligence and falling on my butt. It's like Michael Jordan says, be afraid of failure. It's about it all the time. You have to fail in order to succeed. And I kept falling on my butt, but each time I fell, I learned something new. And then I was lucky enough to be hooked up with a lady who's in the film industry. Her and her husband have a company where they provide, military assistance. Her husband is a ex-special forces guy. graduate of USC with an MBA and worked for Morgan Stanley as a financial analyst. And she took interest in me, and she's going to be my financial strategist. And we created the business plan and then kept revising it. And now we're almost done with the numbers for the $23 million raise. And my next step is to get a FINRA registered broker-dealer to distribute, our private placement memorandum or whatever other tools we have. I developed a pitch, obviously. Anyway, the goal is by the end of this year or early next year to be funded. We have it planned out for six-year exit, and the first year infrastructure, and raising the additional money will allow me to do pilots in-house. Packages. We'll continue to develop packages. We are going to do our own pilots for them in-house. We have business models that took a lot of work to be able to access the type of deals that are being made in order to base our financial models on. So we know exactly, we have a plan, we have a work plan, what I call the blueprint for our success. And that's what we plan to do. So where do I see myself in 5-6 years? I see myself doing a lot of, it depends which way the industry develops is going on. Right now, I'm focused on multicultural, multi-platforms, which could be, doing a limited series on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or whoever the new players that are coming in are, exploiting every other possibility, streaming, network. I mean, the movie, I think, would be a network streaming. People are watching on their stuff on their cell phones. I don't know what the future holds, but what's happening today, which is very important, is the demise of the cable bundling. The cable bundling has created a lot of opportunities. There's demand for content, but filmmakers today are focused, instead of doing short films to have a feature film career, they're doing it to have a television. But this summer, tentpoles went down, and some very good independent films came up. So you never know. You just have to be very nimble. You have to be prepared for everything. You have to adapt.
There's a lot to talk about, and we've got a little bit of time left as we wrap up this program. My guest today has been Mr. Stevens, John Stevens Alon, and it's nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining the program.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. And if you'd like to, what happens after we get funded, I'll be more than happy to share some of the wisdom with you.
I'd love to have you back on. This is Your World Discovered. My name is David Ewen, and this is E.P.N.